Well, the Gin Palace may have been a house of dreams, as described earlier, but it was a palace of gin just the same. A place to get extremely drunk. For Victorian drinking was really terrible. Statistics show that 100 years ago, 1875, consumption of spirits was nearly twice what it is today, while for beer it was 280 pints per head every man, woman and child in Britain, as against about 200 pints a head today. And when you remember that drinking is more evenly distributed today than it was then, more people drink, and that both beer and spirits were very much stronger than they are now, you begin to get a picture of Victorian England. And so the ballads were often broad and beery.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our programme is George Lesswood's famous ditty, 3 Women to Every Man.
Wise men say there are more women than men in the world. That's how some girls are single all their lives. 3 women to every man. Oh, girls, say if you can, why can't every man have 3 wives? 3 women to every man. Oh, girls, say if you can, why can't every man have 3 wives? A bit of sense in that song. Why not 3 women to every man? Old King Solomon had 400.
Yes, no wonder this whoreblighter slept with his father. Order, order!
If I like to sing, I like it, and that's enough. But there's lots of people say that if you like to sing a lot, it'll grow on you and all that sort of stuff. Now, I like me drop of stout as well as anyone. But stout, you know, supposed to make you fat. Oh, and there's many a lardy-dardy madam wouldn't dare to touch it, 'cause it might spoil her figure, the silly cat. Now, I always having it if you fancy it. If you fancy it, that's understood. And suppose it makes you fat, I don't worry over that, 'cause a little of what you fancy does you good. I always like to take a little holiday, and we always had one, my old man and me. But the last time that we had one, he sprung up a new idea when he saw the ladies bathing in the sea. He said what a man required was change of everything. And he ought to take his holidays alone. You know, away from everyday affairs. So I says very likely, well, if you'd like a little fortnight on your own, I always having it if you fancy it. If you fancy it, that's understood. But if that's your blooming game, I intend to do the same, 'cause a little of what you fancy does you good. I had to catch a special train the other day. And I very nearly lost it, I declare. But the guard said, "Come on, jump in, missus," and he bung me in a fuss. And I saw a loving couple sitting there. Oh, I could see the honeymoon was stamped all over him. And I was sorry for the lady and the chap. So I said, "Go on, excuse me, if you want to have a cuddle, 'cause I'm going to have a nap." And I always having it, if you fancy it. If you fancy it, that's understood. And while you young couples spoon, I'll dream of my honeymoon. 'Cause a little of what you fancy do you good. time. And while you young couples swoon, I'll dream of my honeymoon. Hope a little of what you fancy does you good.
Marie Lloyd again. Probably no artist of her day was so much written about, envied, adored, or hated, and imitated. Indeed, her daughter Marie Lloyd Jr. so perfected her mother's style that she continued the Lloyd legend right up until the 60s, although her mother died in 1922. She was Marie Lloyd's only child, and of her first husband, Percy Courtney, the first, I might add, of 3, husbands that is. But Marie Jr. was able to perfect her mother's style and mannerisms to such a degree that she had a successful career lasting for 50 years, simply by impersonating Mum. Marie Lloyd was born plain Matilda Wood in 1870. Her father was a waiter, and she used to go with him to his job at the famous Grecian saloon and watch the great artists of the day perform there. Her first effort on her own was under the name of Bella Del Mere. It sounds posh, don't it? But once established, she changed her name to Marie Lloyd this time. Marie Lloyd, Marie because it seems she liked the name, and Lloyd after a newspaper, Lloyd's Weekly, a famous scandal sheet of the day. Doubtless Marie was always in it, publicly for the naughty innuendo of her songs, and privately for her tempestuous love life.
Mother Eve in the garden long ago started the fashion. Fashion's been a passion. She wore a dress that is left by the street. Still every season brought a change of relief. She'd stare if she came to town. Oh, what would Mother Eve think of my new Parisian gown? As I take my morning promenade, quite a fashion card on the promenade. Now I don't mind nice boys staring hard if it satisfies their desire. Do you think my dress is a little bit, just a little bit, not too much of it? If it shows my shape just a little bit, that's a little bit the boys admire. Fancy the girls in the prehistoric days had to wear a bearskin to cover up their fair skin. Lately Salome, a charmed to be sure, wearing just a row of these, and not much more. Fancy me dressing like that too. I'm sure the Daily Mirrorman would want an interview. As I take my morning promenade, quite a fashion card on the promenade. Now I don't mind nice boys staring hard if it satisfies their desire. Do you think my dress is a little bit, just a little bit, oh, not too much of it? If it shows my shape just a little bit, that's a little bit the boys admire. I've heard the grandmother wore a crinoline. Then came the bustle. Wasn't that a tussle? Women were tied up and loaded up with dress. But fashion now decrees that she must wear much less. Each year our costume grows more brief. I wonder when we'll get back to the good old-fashioned leaf. As I take my morning promenade, quite a fashion card on the promenade. Now I don't mind nice boys staring hard if it satisfies their desire. Do you think my dress is a little bit, just a little bit, not too much of it? And if it shows my shape just a little bit, that's a little bit the boys admire. And to take my morning promenade, quite a fashion card on the promenade. Now I don't mind nice boys staring hard if it satisfies their desire. Do you think my dress is a little bit, just a little bit, not too much of it? If it shows my shape just a little bit, that's a little bit the boys admire.
Both before and after the Civil War of the 1860s, minstrel shows had much enlivened the British musical scene. Many of the songs they brought with them remained to become part of the growing music hall repertoire. This, despite the anti-slavery debate which was then enveloping Westminster, for the British were the beginners and for a very long time the chief entrepreneurs of the slave trade. At the same time, the term coon never had the same kind of stigma attached to it that it came to have in America, and indeed a fairly substantial population of those left behind or married to members of slave ship crews settled and grew up in the Liverpool area, then the chief turnaround port for the slave trade. So there's been a coloured population in the United Kingdom for well over 200 years. Boxing champion John Conte is one such descendant. The locally produced songs of the Stephen Foster type were at once more genteel and Victorian in their flavour, and they were presented, as so often, by whites in blackface.
It's the same old tale of the palpitate nigger every time. Yes, every time. It's the same old trouble of the cold that wants to be married very soon. It's the same old heart that is longing for its lady every time. Yes, every time. But not the same gal, not the same gal. She is my lily, my lily, my lily gal. She goes every sundown, yes, every sundown, calling in the cattle up the mountain. I go, case she wants me, yes, case she wants me, help her do the calling and the counting. She plays her music to the lone lambs that roam above, but I'm the black sheep and I'm waiting for the signal of my little lady love. She's my lady love, she is my dove, my baby love. She's no gal for setting down to dream, she's the only queen Laguna knows. I know she likes me, I know she likes me, because she says so. She is the lily of Laguna, she is my lily and my rose. When I first met Lil, it was down at old Laguna at the dance the other night. She says, I'm curious for to know when you left here the way you want to go. Cause I want to know who the lady is that claims you all way home. Yes, home tonight. I says I've no gal, never had one. And then my lily, my lily, my lily gal, she said, I can't believe you, I can't believe you, else I'd like to have you chaperone me. Dad says he'd escort me, yes, he'll escort me, but it's mighty easy for to lose him. Since then, each sundown, I wander down here and roam around until I know my lady wants me, till I hear the music of the signal sound. She's my lady love, she is my dove, my baby love. She's no gal for setting down to dream, she's the only queen Laguna knows. I know she likes me, I know she likes me, because she says so. She is the lily of Laguna, she is my lily and my rose.
Eugene Stratton, the great singer of the songs of Leslie Stewart, Sweet Victorian ballads they were, all of them, but with that strong influence of the plantation song style of Stephen Foster. It gave them a quite different quality to other songs of the era.
I've waited long to have my say, till southern gals have had their day. I've got the smile now all the while, now just another maidie came to stay. Those gals way down would get no show, they'd stand no chance in Idaho. She ain't no pickaninny from way down no West Virginia, but she sets a dreamin' where the salmon waters flow. Why does she sit and sigh, this little lady, oh? Why does she droop her eyes, this pretty maiden, this lovely gal? Don't you know? Well, now you see, it is because she am so lovesick all through me. She's little Dolly Day, dream pride of Idaho, so now you know. And when you go, you'll see there's something on her mind. Don't think it's you, 'cause no one's got to kiss that gal but me. I ain't spoke yet, nor her to me, but law, you pretty soon can see she's only waiting for me stating that I'm just as much in love as she. There's one poor cuss, she fools him so, he tells them all round Idaho that he's her best intended, because their styles has blended, but she fools with him to send my jealous on the go. Why does she sit and sigh, this little lady, oh? Why does she droop her eyes, this pretty maiden, this lovely gal? Don't you know? Well, now you see, it is because she am so lovesick all through me. She's little Dolly Day, dream pride of Idaho, so now you know. And when you go, you'll see there's something on her mind. Don't think it's you, 'cause no one's got to kiss that gal but me.
What a curious and strange thing the music hall bill was. A little bit of everything, with strong emphasis on the visual, of course, and because until later they were not licensed to present acting pieces of any great length, there was a strong leaning towards the bizarre and the spectacular, a mixture of magic and, just plain hokum. In an attempt to demonstrate something of the atmosphere and the type of thing that went on, Stanley Holloway, Ted Ray and Sandy Powell have recreated for a forthcoming Argo record from old playbills of the Mandra Mitchison Theatrical Museum something of what it was like.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Volta, the eighth wonder of the world. Volta is no less a human mystery than he is a human battery, and students of electricity will be given every opportunity of solving the mystery by scrutinizing his performance at close quarters on the stage. Whereas 5,000 volts are sufficient to kill an ordinary person, Volta allows millions of volts to pass through his body without betraying any sign of pain or discomfort. While in this electrified state, he will light gas jets with the tips of his fingers and cause handkerchiefs to burst into flame by contact with his hand or foot.
We have a little song made famous by Miss Lil Hawthorne entitled In the Good Old Summertime.
In the good old summertime, in the good old summertime, strolling through the shady lane with your baby mine. You hold her hand and she holds yours, and that's a very good sign. That she's your Tootsie Wootsie in the good old summertime.
Order for your chairman!
Chairman, with that blinking hammer, you're more like an auctioneer.
Yes, and if I come over there to you, you'll be the first thing I shall knock down.
The most stupendous and incredible act devised by man. The limit of the marvelous. The great Victoriana troupe. The most terrifying sword-swallowing act on earth. Victorina will perform his most astonishing feat. He will lift a rifle and whirl it about in midair by swallowing the bayonet. He will then load the gun with powder and ball, swallow the barrel 2 feet down his throat, and then discharge it, breaking with a single bullet, a 1-inch glass ball placed on the head of a child. The climax of this, the most weird and startling exhibition before the public, is the moment when Miss Victorina swallows an electric light, and it shines through the flesh, making the body transparent to the astounded beholders.
Next came an exhibition by a young lady in a large glass tank filled with water. She was a very pretty and graceful young lady, and she came on accompanied by a didactic gentleman in evening dress, who accompanied the announcement of each new feature of her performance by a little discourse.
Opening and shutting the mouth underwater. It has long been the theory among scientific men that by opening the mouth while underwater, a vacuum is created, thereby incurring the risk of choking the swimmer. Miss Aquavitae, ladies and gentlemen, will now proceed to demonstrate the fallacy of that opinion by opening and shutting her mouth several times in succession while remaining at the bottom of the tank.
Miss Aquavitae accordingly performed this miracle to our great edification. Then came gathering shells underwater, which was accomplished in a highly elaborate manner, so that there could be no mistake about it. Sewing and writing underwater, eating underwater, when the lady consumed a piece of bread with every appearance of extreme satisfaction.
Drinking from a bottle underwater. Most of you are acquainted with the difficulties of drinking out of a bottle under any circumstances.
Then a cigar was borrowed from the audience, lighted and given to the lady, who, shielding it with her hands, retired under the water and smoked vigorously for a minute or two, reappearing with the cigar still unextinguished.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Aquavitae will now adopt the position of prayer.
The lady sank gracefully to her knees under water, folded her hands, and appeared wrapped in devotion, while the orchestra played the Maiden's Prayer, and the manager, with head reverently bent, stood delicately aside, as one who felt himself unworthy to intrude on such orisons. Then the lady adopted a pose even more imploring, and a ray, first of crimson and then of green light, was thrown onto the tank, presumably to indicate morning and evening prayer respectively. After some minutes of this, the fair performer, a little out of breath from her spiritual exertions, rose, sleek and dripping, to the surface, hopped nimbly out, and bowed herself off.
Well, somehow it all seems more exciting than new faces, doesn't it? Eh? But there they were, the jugglers and high-wire walkers, the clog dancers, and in this case it was all done to the accompaniment of Dawson's musical canaries, whistling Liebstraum, encouraged, no doubt, with the promise of an extra supply of birdseed after the performance. Oh, dear.
Let us now thank those intrepid reporters and commentators, Miss Jessie Matthews, Mr. Tedbury, Mr. Stanley Holloway, and Mr. Sandy Powell, and the Argo Record Studios of London for the occasional use of their facilities. This is Don Taylor in London.